Coming up, a recap of the women's volleyball trip to North Carolina.
Plus, a look at the end to the Cubs season.
I'm Natalie King.
And I'm Josh Lee.
All this and so much more.
Rambler Sports Locker begins now. I don't know about you, Natalie, but I've had a pretty busy week.
Me too. With midterms and fall break coming up, I'm sure it's been a hectic week for everyone at Loyola.
I was so busy this week, I missed some of the Rambler sports games.
Well, lucky for you, with a roundup of all Rambler sports scores from the week, here's Glenna Wethington with the Rambler Rundown.
Welcome back. I'm Glenna Wethington, and this is the Rambler Rundown. The Ramblers are starting off October with a packed schedule and packed bags. On Sunday, the women's soccer team traveled to Amherst, Massachusetts, and lost 4-1 against the UMass Minute Women. Also on Sunday, the men's golf team started their 3-day Badger Invitational in Madison, Wisconsin. They ended their tournament on Tuesday, placing 17th out of 18 teams. Meanwhile, the women's golf team crushed their 2-day tournament on Wednesday. They placed 5th out of 16 teams with a 3-game total of 888. It seems Tuesday is the Ramblers' lucky day, with the women's volleyball team winning 3-0 in St. Louis. And finally, on Wednesday, the men's soccer team traveled to Philadelphia, where they won 3-0 against LaSalle. This game marks the team's 5th shutout this season. That's all for this week's Rambler Rundown. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Glenna Wethington.
Thanks, Glenna. The Ramblers have definitely had a busy week. Before their win in St. Louis on Tuesday, the women's volleyball team went to North Carolina over the weekend to play Davidson. Here's Karaba with more on how their trip played out.
Thanks, Natalie. It was an exciting weekend for Rambler volleyball down in North Carolina. After a tough loss to Dayton in their first conference game and a number of other losses in their season so far, the Ramblers pulled through this past weekend, winning 2 consecutive games on the road against Davidson. The first match was tight. The Ramblers started off strong, but the Wildcats made a comeback. Despite this, Loyola won after the match after 3 straight kills by Emily Bannett to seal the deal. The second match was a sweep and a second victory for the Ramblers. This match put the team's defense on full display, racking up a season-high 15 blocks, with senior Anna Feldkamp contributing 8. Talk about a block party. Coach Amanda Barkley said she was, quote, proud of the team for staying composed and sticking to the game plan, end quote. Can the women's volleyball team claim back-to-back A10 championship titles? Only time will tell. For RSL, I'm Karaba.
Thanks, Ellen. What a big way to win on the road. If our team can continue to play like they did against Davidson, I think we have a chance of going far into the postseason. Speaking of postseasons, Amelia Villhauer discusses the tragic end to the Cubs season.
And just like that, the Chicago Cubs' race to the playoffs has come to an end. The Cubs' 10-6 victory against the Milwaukee Brewers on Saturday, September 30th was short-lived due to the Miami Marlins' 7-3 win against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Marlins' win ultimately eliminated the Cubs' chances from playoff contention this year. Despite the devastating end, the Cubs did manage to have an 83-79 record this season and placed second in the National League Central Division. Let's take a look back at some highlights from 2023. There's no better place to start than the beginning, otherwise known as opening day on March 30th. The Cubs went into the season swinging and won their first game against the Brewers with a score of 4-0. The city was filled with the excitement of fans celebrating their first win. This was also Cody Bellinger's first season with the Cubs, and the center fielder managed to exceed all expectations by leading the team with a .310 batting average, 26 home runs, and 96 runs batted in. He's one of only 9 players in the MLB to have a batting average of over 300 this season. He's currently signed on a 1-year, $17.5 million deal with the Cubs, meaning he's a free agent for next season, and fans will have to wait and see if he'll be staying at Wrigley or moving on to a new team. Despite the disappointing end for the Cubs, there were still many moments from the 2023 season to be proud of, and fans will have to wait and see what 2024 has in store. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Amelia Villhauer.
Thanks, Amelia. The season may have come to an unfortunate end for the Cubs, but the Loyola men's basketball team is just getting started. The Ramblers will have their first game on November 8th against Florida Atlantic University. They started practice for the season with a boot camp on September 21st. Vanesa Hoxha has more on what the team has been working on so far.
Yes, I know, it's volleyball season, soccer season, and it's fall. But don't you want to know the work your Loyola men's basketball team is putting in this off-season? After the team's first year in the Atlantic 10 Conference, going 10-21 overall, head coach Drew Valentine and his players are striving for improvement. The team got after it on day one of boot camp. Yes, you heard that right, boot camp. Over a span of 3 days, from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., the boot camp consisted of multiple drills, including off-ball defense, defensive slides, and much more. After the drills, sophomore guard Jaden Dawson tells RSL the team performed Marquette runs, sprinting from half court and back, then full court and back is one run. On the first day, the team completed 15 runs. The next day went up to 20 runs, and they completed the third day with 27 runs. Desmond Watson, a junior transfer student from Davidson University, spoke about his first experience with a Loyola boot camp. He said, quote, "My first boot camp experience was something I'll never forget. As a team, it built a bond that will never break on and off the court. Personally, it pushed me mentally and made me stronger," end quote. Dawson then explained that other than conditioning, boot camp was an opportunity to come together as a team and encourage one another till the end. He said, quote, "It was super hard, physically and mentally. You want to quit so many times, but I love it though. It brings the team together, and you can see what coming together as a team and pushing one another to the end can do in the long run," end quote. The Ramblers prepare for their first exhibition match here at Gentile Arena on October 29th against Trinity Christian College. You can also watch the Maroon and Gold in the Barstool Invitational as they take on one of last year's Final Four teams, Florida Atlantic University, on November 8th at the Winchester Arena. Reporting from the Alfie Norville practice facility, Vanesa Hoxha, Rambler Sports Locker.
Thanks, Vanessa. The Ramblers aren't the only team seeing new beginnings. Preseason is underway for the Blackhawks, and all eyes are on rookie Connor Bedard after his first preseason goal with the NHL on Tuesday. Here's Nate Keough with a preview of the upcoming hockey season.
Hockey fans can stop asking, is it October yet? Because the 2023-24 NHL season is finally here. The Blackhawks are gearing up for their first season without any players from the 2010s dynasty era. With the rebuild in full swing, let's take a look at what we can expect from the team going forward. One name is sure to be on every Blackhawks fan's mind, Connor Bedard. The 2023 first overall draft pick is set to make his highly anticipated regular season debut in Tuesday's opener. Bedard is far from the only young prospect on the roster. High draft picks Lukas Reichel and Kevin Korchinski are just some of the players vying for a spot on the final roster. The Hawks also picked up veteran forwards Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, and Corey Perry in the offseason. With a combined 3,160 games played, these three will add much-needed experience and leadership to the locker room. Notable returning players include last season's leading scorer Andreas Athanasiou and alternate captains Connor Murphy and Seth Jones. Another veteran is expected to start between the pipes. Goaltender Peter Mrazek is going into his second year with the Hawks, ending last season with a 10-22-3 record and a .894 save percentage. With regular backup Alex Stalock gone, 24-year-old Arvid Soderblom will step in with just 18 NHL starts under his belt. With so many new additions, it will take a lot of work for this team to gel together. The lack of a solid core will hurt now, but with so much young talent to develop, the team has a promising future ahead. The Blackhawks will face the Pittsburgh Penguins in their regular season opener on Tuesday, October 10th at 7 p.m. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Nate Keough.
Thanks, Nate. It'll be interesting to see how all these new faces adjust to their new team. While we're on the topic of adjustments, I might need to make some adjustments to my fantasy team, as I've started the season 1-3. But with some help from Chloe Morrissey on points and pigskins, I think I can get my team back on track.
Welcome back to Points and Pigskin. Another week down in the fantasy books, and there were plenty of standout players as we look back on some of my top picks from week 4. We start off with none other than the #1 running back in the league, Christian McCaffrey. A healthy Christian McCaffrey is just about unstoppable, which is evident after posting an impressive 45.2 points. As a proud fantasy manager to CMC myself, I can attest to this after he nearly posted more points than everyone on my starting roster combined. McCaffrey scored a career-high 4 touchdowns in last Sunday's game, marking his 3rd game rushing 100 yards so far this season. Texans' 3rd-year wide receiver Nico Collins has been working his way into the conversation after dropping 32.3 fantasy points. He has not only begun to establish himself as a confident pick for a fantasy starter, but potentially as a top 10 fantasy receiver going forward. Collins already has 2 games topping 140 yards as he heads into Week 5's matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. Puka Nacua has yet to leave the conversation week after week, and once again, the rookie showcased his exceptional talent in Week 4. The Rams wide receiver secured 9 out of 10 targets for 163 yards and a touchdown, totaling 26.8 points. Nacua carried the team on his back, recording his first career touchdown on the final play of overtime. Rams star receiver Cooper Kupp is expected to return to practice this week with the possibility of playing in Sunday's game, but Nacua has likely locked in his role as a consistent producer for the Rams. After totaling 131 yards in Week 3, A.J. Brown kept his momentum rolling, securing 175 yards and 34 points in Week 4, looking like a solid 2-week trend. Brown caught 9 passes for the 2nd week in a row with 43 targets across his last 4 games. The Eagles wide receiver found the end zone for the first time this year and is a clear choice heading into Week 5. That wraps up this week's edition of Points and Pigskin. Join in on the conversation across our social medias and be sure to let us know who your top fantasy picks are going into Week 5. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Chloe Morrissey.
Thanks, Chloe. We've just received word that Bears legend Dick Butkus has passed away at the age of 80. He played 9 seasons for the Bears from 1965 to 1973. Butkus will always be remembered in Chicago for his impact on the gridiron. Now returning our focus to the Diamond, the MLB playoff season kicked off Tuesday with victories from the Rangers, Phillies, Twins, and Diamondbacks. William Bazzone, Oliver Allen, and Ethan Beltran are here to predict results for the rest of the playoffs in the Ramble.
Thank you, Josh and Natalie, and welcome in to this week's Ramble. I'm your host, William Bazzone, and with me this week is Ethan Beltran and Oliver Allen. Folks, the Major League Baseball playoffs are heating up. Who is excited for October baseball? I know, I am, and so are you gentlemen here. We've got 8 teams vying for 2 World Series spots. And I'm going to ask you guys, who is going all the way? Who are the upsets? What's happening? And who's going to hoist the Commissioner's Trophy at the end of the month? Oliver, I know your St. Louis Cardinals did not make the postseason this year. Ouch. But what do you like? What do you like in these matchups right now?
Well, now that my Cardinals came nowhere close to the playoffs and the Cubs choked and the Brewers got completely thrashed, I really don't have a whole lot of stake in these playoffs as a fan.
Sure.
So you're going to get a completely unbiased opinion from me. I'm thinking on the AL side of things, I think one constant pretty much every year is the Astros making it to the championship series. So
you don't like Minnesota, though?
The Twins. I think they're a solid team, but I just think the Astros are a whole lot better.
That's fair.
I'm not going to bet against them.
Absolutely.
On the other side, I actually have an upset. I have the Rangers beating the Orioles. Wow. I'll take it in 5 games.
Okay.
I just think this Orioles team lacks a little bit of experience. They're a very young core.
It's huge.
And I think they're limited in pitching. Their star closer, Felix Bautista, is
Tommy John.
Tommy John.
Yep.
So I think that'll be a big upset.
But what about the Rangers bullpen, though? They're a little suspect.
It definitely has its concerns, but I mean, they gave up 1 run to a 99-win team in the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that's pretty legit. I think that their starting rotation, Jordan Montgomery, Nathan Eovaldi, both look like stars.
Sure.
I think it'll get them through.
And you haven't even touched the LA series yet.
Well, I don't really have a whole lot to say about that one. I've got the Dodgers in 3. I love this young Diamondbacks team. I am a Corbin Carroll supporter all the way. I just think it's a little bit premature for them. They definitely
overachieved?
outperformed a little bit this year. And you know, if I'd love to eat my words. I hate the Dodgers. I love seeing an underdog, but if I were to put money on it, I'd say the Dodgers in 3.
All right, and then Atlanta, who do you like there?
I'm going to take the Phillies.
Okay.
I am a full supporter in Red October. I think that, you know, the Phillies did it last year. You see the crowd. I mean, in a game against the Marlins, you saw the first inning on like an 0-2 pitch to the second batter of the game. You couldn't even hear the announcers.
Oh, absolutely.
The atmosphere is just electric. And I think the Braves are a great team, but I think they've got a little bit of choke artist in them. They did it last year. I think the Phillies are going to upset them, and I think they're going to make a pretty deep run.
Well, hopefully we don't see the 27 Yankees, an offense that's rivaling them, choke this year. Ethan, let's talk about your picks. Any differences from Oliver? Any teams you like going all the way?
Actually, I'm going to take the Twins over the Houston Astros. I think they looked amazing against the Blue Jays. I think they have a really good starting rotation featuring Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray. You know, Pablo Lopez is the ace, but Sonny Gray's top 5 in ERA, so that kind of shows you how deep that is. They have a really good closer on Duran, really good bullpen featuring guys like Griffin Jacks, and a great veteran leadership in Carlos Correa. And he said in his interview yesterday that they have a lot of young guys that seem like they want it. And you can tell, and it seems like they're also playing with not that much pressure on them because nobody really expected them to beat the Blue Jays alone.
Absolutely, and they got the monkey off their back after losing 18 straight. That's got to be crazy. Anything else from you, Ethan? Anything else you see?
I also think the Phillies have a good chance, but I think Atlanta's going to take that. Acuna Jr. is playing out of his mind.
Absolutely.
They have Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Eddie Rosario, who was a really big player in their last World Series win, and then adding Acuna on top of that, who wasn't in that series either, gives them a really good chance to take everything and win the World Series.
That's very fair. Well, now, not that my picks mean that much, but my top 4, I've got Houston beating Minnesota. This was a tough one. I like your take on that, Ethan, but I'm still sticking with Houston. I actually do like Baltimore against Texas. I just think that youth is really going to power them. They're hungry. They're ready. And I think that will go to 5 games, but I think it's going to go in Baltimore's favor. And in the NL, I've got all chalk, LA, and Atlanta. So in the World Series, I've got Houston and Atlanta. And now that we've got it all out of the way, who is winning the World Series, Oliver?
It's not exciting, but I think it might be the Astros again. I just think that team, you can't find a whole lot of weaknesses in it. I mean, every year they come to the postseason, and we really haven't seen anything like it since maybe the late 90s Yankees. I mean, this is a team that just dominates in the postseason.
Absolutely.
I think we might get a rematch. I think we might get a Phillies-Astros World Series, and I think it'll be close. I mean, you know, you see how Philly's been playing in the second half. They were one of the best teams just all around.
No doubt about it.
I think they'll definitely give the Astros a run for their money. They did last year. But I just think the Astros, they have the pitching. They have a very stellar bullpen. They have veteran leadership. Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, they've been here before. And
Absolutely.
Jose Altuve is one of the most storied postseason hitters of all time.
Hopefully no cheating, though.
Well,
no garbage cans, no bats, nothing like that.
I think they've done enough to kind of move past that they're not just they weren't created by trash cans. They are a legitimate postseason team.
That's very fair. And Ethan, who do you have?
I have Atlanta. I think they're too good. They have the most wins in the league. They have the MVP in Acuna Jr. Obviously, I mentioned that already. But I think if they go up against Houston again, they didn't have Acuna. Oh, no, they did have Acuna in the last one, and they beat the Astros last time. So I think adding him onto it just gives them an even better chance to do it again.
Absolutely. 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases. That's just unbelievable. And he's got a cannon of an arm out of right field. Just truly an unbelievable hitter. Guys, I don't know. I think I'm going Houston in this one. But hey, it'll be exciting to see what goes on as we lead up to the Fall Classic. That wraps up this ramble. Thank you to Oliver and Ethan. And now we'll swing it back to the anchors to finish up the show.
Thanks, everyone. I can't wait to see which teams will make it to the World Series.
Yeah, as a California native, I hope the Dodgers make it. But either way, it'll be fun to see how things unfold.
That wraps up this episode of Rambler Sports Locker.
To stay up to date on all things Rambler Sports, be sure to follow us on X, TikTok, and Instagram at Loyola RSL, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
From all of us here at Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Natalie King.
And I'm Josh Lee.
We'll see you next week, and don't forget to turn off the lights.